Like sometimes, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm cattle bred to pay subscriptions online. Everything's a subscription, and I feel like I'm getting milked for the money I earn. I want to be creatively doing things with my resources rather than allowing them to just be consumed by the machine. Hello everyone, welcome back to Delta Pod. I'm Dave. This is our second episode on a roll. The hypothesis of this episode is we are either creating or consuming, and I think we have to intentionally switch to creating. So throughout this chat, we're going to be talking about a lot of words beginning with C. Words like creativity, consumption, contentment, comfort, comas, and more. As I mentioned in the first episode, for me, creativity is really core. It's core to why Delta Pod exists. And my challenge from the first episode was go and think about what creativity would look like in your life. I think the interesting thing about creativity is it goes and has this friction with consumption. We are either creating or consuming. And I suppose sometimes it's a mindset thing, but sometimes it's very obvious what we're doing. So if I'm sat down watching TV, watching Netflix, I am consuming. Yeah. If I'm out at dinner, I'm consuming things around me. And what am I creating in those moments? I'm not saying any moment of consumption can't have a moment of creativity in it as well. If I'm out for dinner with friends, I'm creating friendships, I'm creating relationships, right? That's all important. Understanding our consumption is key. What's the easy option in any given situation? It's normally to consume something, to sit back and take in the situation. And there's a place for sitting back, consuming, stopping. But in life, I think I've got the ratio wrong. I've been consuming comfortable jobs, consuming Netflix, consuming too much food, the wrong types of food, consuming or spending time with the wrong types of people. And what this all does is when we start to consume, when our life becomes about consumption, buying things, consuming consumer goods, rather than being creative with how we want to be and how we want to affect the world, we end up in this phrase I would use called a comfort coma. We're in this coma of just like all a bit desensitized to everything because we're just constantly consuming, kind of bumbling along, doing as we think the world wants us to do, rather than going out there, enacting some change. And that change has to come from creativity, this positive space of creativity. For me, this is a real core part of why this podcast exists, is I want you, and I'm going to try and do this is something I'm really trying to do, is in that creativity and challenge is growth. So if consumption can lead to one level of growth, like your waistline's going to grow potentially, but it's not going to lead to fulfillment and inner growth and all those kind of inner levels of growth that we need. So the model, the thought I want to offer is, what is your ratio of creativity to consumption? And what I'm not saying is you have to be creative in order to be fulfilled. I'm saying we need to think about our ratio. What's the ratio like? And I would say that because of the life we live in, we're bred to consume. Like sometimes, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm cattle bred to pay subscriptions online. That's pretty much how, like, everything's a subscription. And I feel like I'm getting milked for the money I earn. And I don't like that feeling. I want to be creatively doing things with my resources rather than allowing them to just be consumed by the machine. I would challenge you, look around you at the most content people. Are they consuming or creating? And what ratio are they creating or consuming? And so what I'm not proposing you have to be super creative to be super content. What I'm saying is everyone's different, but understanding our balance between creativity and contentment is really key. For me, I think I've got it completely the wrong way around. I looked at my life. I just kind of roughly went through the key activities I've done each day. I was like, what am I creating or am I mindlessly consuming? The job I do, so I work in technology, but I also like run a business. When I'm doing technology, I very much feel like, yes, it's okay, it's an interesting space to be, but I'm consuming comfort. There's a comfortable element of that, which I feel like it means it's a consumption space for me. It's not a creative space. The majority of that time spent at tech work is consumption. Whereas Outliers work I do, the work in our wellbeing performance company, is super fulfilling. And I feel that's because we're creating debate and questions and growth from other people. For me, I get a lot out of it, and it's very creative. So I align my fulfillment to being creative. I love doing this. I've loved going through the process of getting the lighting composition right. You'll notice if you're watching this online that I've mixed up the lighting a little bit, and we're going to keep playing around the lighting, figuring out the right audio, how to do audio and stuff like that. that process of creation, I really enjoy and get a lot from it. My previous ratio was probably like 90% consumption, 10% creativity. Especially since, like I mentioned in the first podcast, I'm solo dad. Most of my time, any free time spent with the kids, and they're very creative, and doing creative stuff with them is great, and building bonds. But ultimately, there's this bit of me, there's an inner bit of Dave that didn't feel like he could be that creative. So this is that. This is me breaking into creativity, bringing a discipline to that creativity. If you want to be really rigid, go through every 24 hours of your day and just align each hour to, was it a creative hour or was it consumption? Creative or consumption? Sleep, creative, right? We are creative, we are growing, we are becoming someone new every time you go to sleep. But what are you doing with your waking hours? And I think this starts to point to where our values are. What are our values? And for me, there's a key value around this where creativity is really important. I value it. I value it in others. I value challenge from others. If you're around me, I want your view and opinion, your thoughts. I want you to be applying your brain and being creative. I don't just be consuming stuff I'm saying or just mindlessly agreeing. Like this, get in the comments. Tell me what you think. Am I chatting rubbish? Or is this beneficial? And also I'd love to know, what do you think your creativity to consumption ratio is? And I think there's an interesting thing here where consumption can be perceived at creating comfort. And there's this whole goal in life to be comfortable. But I think there's this illusion around comfort, like the comfort coma, that we're just kind of blindly moving forward, that comfort robs us of joy. And I think sometimes we might need to be a little bit divergent. We might have to go against the things which we think are really comfortable to achieve joy. And there's a right and wrong way to do that. I think understanding this and putting some thought into your creativity and consumption ratio will help you understand where joy is and where comfort is. And are you in a comfort coma? Do you need to push your boundaries a little bit and go and bring some discipline to being creative? Joy and creativity for me are closely linked, whereas I think if more consumption we have, we might be comfortable, but we don't necessarily have joy. So what is your ratio? Where are the areas of consumption in your life versus the areas of creativity? Where do you think the balance is for you? And like I said, I worked this out. I didn't do every 24 hours, but I just kind of like brought them a key blocks up over the last few days I've been doing. Majority of it is consumption, rather than using my brain, sitting down and thinking. And actually what I found was when I'd sit down and be like, writing the blogs for these episodes, I'd sit down with my MacBook and I'd be like, typing away. And I'm like, I'll just stick Rick and Morty on or stick Netflix on in the background. And what am I doing there? I'm breaking focus, but I'm also trying to cram in some consumption to my creativity time, which is not good. So I caught myself as I was writing this. I was like, what are you doing, Dave? You're consuming a bit. And it's that challenge. And there's a whole challenge now I suppose I'm bringing to everything I do is, am I allowing consumption to hamper my creativity and my comfort to prevent my joy? I think my final question or the challenge at the end of this podcast would be, go create conversations, go create sweat, go create love, go create new knowledge. Just go and create. There's a lot of fulfillment in that, but you will be able to find your correct balance of what is creativity versus consumption. And it might be hard. You might realize that actually your job, say you do a super corporate busy job, really high profile pressure, you might realize that actually it's a very comfortable space of consumption. And my challenge to you would be, how can you bring more creativity into your life? So thanks for listening. You know where to find us, deltapodblogs.com, and on any podcast platform that you might want to use. Thank you very much.